Well, you and I, it sounds like we share a same philosophy, and I loved what you said. Is I believe I was made. That's one philosophy. But the second one was for many missions. A reason for many missions, and it sounds like even the teaching, could have been a mission. It was still on purpose. It was a mission. Now it's time for something else. But a lot of people, when they understand purpose and they think about mission, they think like they have to be locked into what they do forever. Like they can't change. And it's like, no, 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 no. You get lots of opportunities to live out your purpose. All right, welcome to another episode of Made to Matter. I'm your host, Adam Landrum, and Made to Matter is all about men helping them live their purpose in the second half, and entrepreneurs also building a business and a life that matters. So I am glad to have Darin Kinder on the show today, and Darin, welcome. Thanks for joining me, and we're excited to have this conversation.
Thanks, Adam. It's good to be here.
Yes, this is good. This is going to be well. All the talks are fun, but this is going to be a great talk. Darin has a very interesting history and background. So Darin, tell us a little bit just to start, like where you're from and all that good stuff.
Sure. I am from Central Virginia. I grew up in Central Virginia my entire life. Um, I currently live in North Texas in one of the Dallas suburbs. But yeah, I've had an interesting life, an interesting ride. I was graduated from college, became a high school history teacher, a job that I loved, but felt called and felt like I was supposed to be doing something different. And that led me eventually to a career in the United States Secret Service, where I was a special agent for over 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And I have recently retired from there just as of a couple of months ago. And now at age 51, Adam, I am doing what you're always talking about. I am relaunching. I'm hitting the reset button and starting a second career.
Okay, very cool. And at age 51, that puts us at the exact same age.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. And so sort of interesting timing. Because my trigger was probably a couple years ago. Like how when you decided to leave the Secret Service, like what was there a time where you knew it was time to move on, or how would that look like?
We have in our job we have that mark. Eventually, you hit that day when you're eligible to retire, right?
Okay.
And you're eligible to receive a pension and an annuity or whatever for the remainder. And of course, that date was circled on my calendar, but I blew by that date about a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
And my intention was to go around then, or at age 50, but it just although I felt called to do something different, and I had a really good idea, a firm idea of what that was, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot.
Yeah.
I just it was 2024, early 2024, campaign season was kicking off, and I just felt led to stay. I felt like I needed to stay and finish one more mission. That mission being the campaign season of 2024. And about halfway through that, I was like, you need to go. It's time. This is a young man's game. So started laying the groundwork for that, and then punched out in this early this summer in June.
Yeah, well, great insight. I talk a lot about the first half. Well, actually, men in the second half still trying to live the first half, the young man's game, and recognizing that and making adjustments. So, all right, so tell us, like high school history teacher, and you decide, you know what, I think I'm going to go to the Secret Service. Like, how does that happen, and how does one just decide to do the Secret Service? Like, I have no clue what that, like, you just, and then you just apply. What's that look
Right.
like?
Well, looking at it from the outside, my story makes no sense. But the story is this: my brother, who's 3 years older than me, he was drawn to law enforcement from the beginning. That's what he wanted to do. Myself, I was drawn to military service from the beginning. That's what I wanted to do and assumed I was going to do. But I was kind of young and dumb and didn't do my research. And I'm just going through college, getting a teaching degree, but with every intention of entering military service after that. And my senior year, I start doing some research and making some calls. It was in my mind, it was just a decision, which branch am I going to fall into, right? And
Yeah.
then I quickly those dreams were dashed. I didn't last long in the process. It turns out I was medically ineligible because I
Hmm.
had asthma, or I had asthma as a kid. I still had remnants of it in college. I still required at that time, at least, an inhaler. And I don't know what the rules are today, but at the time that was a no go. So I was crushed,
Hmm.
Adam. I was a young man ready to enter the world, not afraid of the world, really eager to jump into the world. And the one thing I was focused on was taken from me. And so I went through this little time of just purposelessness, right? And so I got what many men get a taste of in their middle ages. I had a taste of it early because this just wasn't the plan that I had. Well, so I said, okay, well, what are you going to do? So I was going to school for a teaching degree, and that's what I did. So I taught history. I got a job at a high school in a county that neighbored the county I grew up in, and taught for about 3.5, 4 years, and loved it. Just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kids. I
Hmm.
enjoyed teaching history by telling stories. It was I was coaching basketball. It was just so much fun. But talk about a life made to matter. There was an itch that needed to be scratched, and something wasn't clicking. I still had that itch of some kind of service, and so I started to look at other opportunities, and it didn't take long because a friend of mine, his neighbor was a Secret Service agent, and I was introduced to him, asked him 100 questions, and he said, "Look, kid, you're clearly interested. Here's my card. Give
Yeah.
me a call." That was early in my teaching career. That card sat in my bedside table. I talk about that in my book. That card sat in my bedside table for about 2.5 years. But I always looked at it and I was like, what should I do? And luckily, I was married to a woman, my wife Heather, and she has adventure in her bones. Right? She's just ready to roll for anything. And one day, I just decided to pick up that card, give that agent a call, and that started the process.
Oh, wow.
Jumped in that process it's a lot shorter now. We've streamlined it, but at the time, it took me about a year. And they ran me through the ringer because of my asthma. They had to make sure I was good to go, which I clearly was. And yeah, they got signed on, and I was in the right time at the right place. They were hiring a lot of people. There was a lot of agents retiring at that time. Most of the guys they hire are former military or former police. I was neither. But as a senior agent told me later, he sat on my panel interview. He said to me, talk about a backhanded compliment. He said, "Yeah, you didn't check all the boxes we were looking for, but we liked you."
Nice. Well, you
I
got
said,
that going for you.
I said,
Uh,
"Okay." Yeah, and so that started my Secret Service life.
yeah, that's great. Okay, so yeah, a couple things popped out to me. One thing is, a midlife crisis. If you do that, it really doesn't discriminate around age. Although it is in the mid 40s typically. I call that some people can have a quarter life crisis. You had two. It sounded like you had the, "Hey, I'm not going military, now what do I do?" And then you found teaching, and that was fulfilling, but then you're like, "This isn't quite it," and so you had probably another little crisis, uh, and so that's pretty amazing. You had 2 pretty young.
Right, I did, and it wasn't at the time. I wouldn't have called it a crisis, but it was an uneasiness. Right, it was just
Mhm.
like I'm doing well. I'm doing good work, and I enjoy it. But I am not in the sweet spot. I'm not really doing what I'm made to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then the way that was just dropped into my lap is, in my opinion, providential. So yeah, and we move forward.
Right, and then you had like, the hero's journey, you had the guide show up, give you the card, you let that card sit on the I mean, this is like becoming a movie, which I understand it's already become a book, so maybe the movie's next.
Yeah, let's
Um
not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, there's the first thumb bubble. Okay, so if you're watching the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. But all right, so you just I want to zero in on the word sweet spot. It wasn't quite the sweet spot. How do you define what the sweet spot is?
I just there's time periods that I've been in and out of it in my life. And the way I like to describe it is um when you're when you're doing what I believe. I'm a man of faith, so I believe I'm created for a reason, for a purpose, for a mission, or many missions. And I just there's just times in my life where I know I'm in a sweet spot because I can feel this sense that I was made for this, right?
Mhm.
I was made for this, and the work I was doing as a teacher, I already said it, I enjoyed it, and it was worthy, it was valuable, it was and it that is a job of service. Let's be clear, but I was just made for something, and I have a really, if you get to know me, a fierce mindset. Just to grind it, fierce in intensity to how I attack life, and that wasn't in the long term going to be beneficial in the classroom. That was going to be beneficial in some other sense, which is why I believe I was drawn to military service to begin with. It
Mhm.
just didn't work out. So,
Right.
so I was able to take that fierce mentality into a place where I could use it in a disciplined way, and have a very successful career and a very fulfilling career. And although there were challenges and sacrifices along the way, I just knew it was where I was supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's great. I think a lot of people, we settle in for, well, this is pretty good, right? And it sounded like the teaching, like you were good at it. It was important. It mattered, but you just knew in your bones or that it wasn't quite it. But I guess it didn't check the box for that fierce mindset that you'd been given to.
Right, exactly. I mean, I had outlets for that. I was coaching these young men in basketball, and I was a fierce coach, right? And that was good and bad, but there were outlets for it. But it just wasn't. I just knew in the long term. I know I could have taught through 2, 3, 4 more years and done well and been fairly content. But I knew this wasn't my 30, 40 year journey. That there was something else.
Yeah. Well, you and I, it sounds like we share a same philosophy, and I loved what you said. Is I believe I was made. That's one philosophy. But the second one was for many missions. A reason for many missions, and it sounds like even the teaching could have been a mission. It was still on purpose. It was a mission. Now it's time for something else. But a lot of people, when they understand purpose and they think about mission, they think like they have to be locked into what they do forever. Like they can't change. And it's like, no, 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 no. You get lots of opportunities to live out your purpose on that mission. It sounds like you moved on to um into maybe another mission, a greater mission, a more aligned mission. But tell us a little bit. Well, first of all, let's. Do you wanna tell us a little bit about the book? But I'm also interested in the beginnings of your secret service life, and then I think maybe the book picks up. If tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, sure. I was eventually hired. I was living in Richmond, Virginia at the time, and the agent in charge of the Richmond office was very very honest with me, and he said, "Look, if you get hired, they're gonna send you to New York City." And I was like, small town, big city. I was like, whoa, I wasn't too excited. My wife, on the other hand, was like, yes, that would be awesome, right? And sure enough, I get the offer, and it's to New York City. There was no choice. There was no drop down menu of cities I could select, and yeah, so we just did it. Did about 7 months of training. Went to New York, small town boy, and the city. And I remember the first day coming off the escalator. We got an apartment in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is just across the river from Lower Manhattan. And I took the train in under the river, came up out, and I'm at the World Trade Center site at the World Trade Center, subway stop, path train, and it opens into this huge plaza. And the plaza sat between these massive two towers, and I was just like, whoa. I
Hmm.
mean, this is real, right? And my office was in the World Trade Center, the seventh building of that complex, Seven World Trade.
Okay.
And so that's where I began my agent life. I jumped in at the tail end of the 2000 campaign where uh, Governor Bush at the time was running against Vice President Gore, and in New York, the first lady, this had never happened, the first lady of the United States, Hillary Clinton, was running for U.S. Senate. And so, I mean, we were all over the place. I don't think I had a day off for like 90 days. It was trial by fire, and that began our life in New York, and we were there. Fast forward a year and a month, really a year and a half, and that leads me to where my book picks up, which is my experience in the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001.
All right. And the title of the book is "Bury Me." in a dirty suit, right?
Mhm.
All right, you wanna start continuing the story and unpacking what the book's about?
Yeah, I mean, the book is 2 things, right? It is, it's a firsthand account, here 24 years later, it's a firsthand account of what it was like, to be on the ground, during those attacks, during the initial impact, the second impact, the first collapse, the second collapse, and everything in between. Also gives you an optic into what it was like to be a young Secret Service agent on September 14th, which is 3 days later when President Bush came to Ground Zero, came to the same site, he came to the same exact area that was my battlefield all day, just 3 days prior
Mm,
on the 11th. So it's that and it's a being a former history teacher, it's kind of a history lesson for some, right? But it's a really a story that needs to be told because it's a as I have traveled the country and I speak to thousands of people, it's very clear to me that that event is it is a although tragic, it is an event that binds us together as a nation.
mm,
Everyone,
right.
if you're of age, everyone knows exactly where they were, what they were
Yep.
doing. Everyone has a story to tell, and so my story is to tell. This is what happened to me, and it's a crazy story. It's a roller coaster of God's providence and poor decision making on my part sometimes, but it's a wild ride. And but all of it, honestly, Adam, serves as a backdrop, as an illustration that I'm making a bigger point, and that is I'm calling men specifically. It's equally applicable to both, but I'm calling men specifically to get off the sideline and seek their God given purpose.
Mm,
That we were created in this time, in this place. I believe I'm not a result of some cosmic accident, just tumbling through space, and I was made for a reason. And it's all about pursuing and courageously following your purpose and in this stage of life and the next stage of life and so really it's about, hey, this is what that experience did to me with me, and now here's what I'm doing with it, and it's been an exciting ride.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, and part of the story, I don't want to. I mean, I just know a little bit about it, but you were actually on site, right? When the
Yes.
yeah when this happened. Okay,
Yeah.
and so it's your perspective of being on site, Secret Service agent, and then working basically. I mean, when Bush came back, you're actually
Right, right, I was
securing.
there, yeah, that was 3 days later. I mean, whereas September 11th is the worst day of my life, September 14th is one of the high water marks of my professional career just because it was a really unique and throughout 25 years in the Secret Service, I just got to witness history so many times and, be a part of it and, just some really I have some great memories. But on that day, yeah, I mean, I won't go through the timeline, but we after we evacuated, everyone had a choice, and one of the things I hammer home in the book is courage is a choice.
Hmm.
And some people just left the scene, and some of us stayed and chose to enter into the fight, enter into the fray. And I spent the day with several of my coworkers, my colleagues, just helping people evacuate, taking care of the wounded, getting them into emergency care. At one point, Adam, after the two towers collapsed, we went back to the main site because the first tower should have killed me. The second, it was really close. The second tower, I had a little bit of a head start. I was spared there as well, but we went back, and I mean, all the firefighters were gone, Adam.
Mm,
And
yeah. Wow.
part of this book is I go to great lengths to honor the 422. Actually, the book is dedicated to them, the 422 first responders who died
Hmm.
on that day in New York City. And they were gone, and there was just one fire truck in the middle of the intersection that was not damaged. And we just the two guys I was with, they managed to hook up a hose and figure out how to turn the water on, and we became this amateur hour 3-man, 4-man firefighting team,
Oh wow.
putting out car fires in the area, doing what I call just doing the next thing, just tackling the next problem in front of you, not knowing the bigger picture, not having a 3 or 4 year plan or having the time to form a committee. We were just knocking down the next problem in front of us, contributing, bringing some light into this dark place, right?
Right.
And yeah, so it was a it was a wild day, and I can tell you how it ended as well, but I don't want to lead you somewhere you don't want to go.
Well, I don't want to spoil the book if it if you don't want to, but I mean, I have a lot of questions, and if we want to go there
Yeah.
and say how it ended, I also want to unpack, what what you're up to now. So let me I
Sure.
mean, let me ask a couple questions or make a couple comments. I mean, the first thing is
Mhm.
I can't well, first of all, just thank you for what you chose to do. Um sounds remarkable, and I bet in a time like that you can see human nature at its best, and you can see human nature at its worst. I'm sure. And you could understand why people would flee, right? Would run if they're scared and they're, and all that. But
Really.
yeah, so that's incredible what you did, and what you did with other people. So I just want to say that and say thank you for doing that. And then yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what it'd be like being on site, you're helping people, first tower goes down. I would imagine were you like right there because people weren't expecting the tower to come down?
Right. I was what we call danger close.
Uh,
I was about 80 yards from the base of Tower 2, and I heard a weird like metal on metal screeching sound. I'd never heard it, and I looked up, and just as I looked up, I saw the top of Tower 2 buckle and start to come down, and my first thought in my mind was I'm dead, because I was like,
mm,
lights out, game over, I am way too close. And then the second thought was run. And I was 27 years old and pretty fast at the time, at least, and I ran, but man, it took me over really fast. And large chunks of debris falling all around me, and that cloud taking me over. And I clearly, I mean, clearly, a lot of people there on the street at least were trapped and hit, and I wasn't. And
mm,
so it's one of the things that I remind myself of on a regular basis is yeah, if you're spared, you better make it count. So what
yeah.
are we going to do today? What are we going to do tomorrow? How are you going to build your family? How are you going to build a career? All those things are they just take on even more importance.
Yeah, I could imagine. And so you had that experience, and then so you're spared. You made it out from the tower falling, and then you go back. and
Yeah,
and what this time were you thinking? Well, I'll hear this one fall, so I'll know. I'll have a
I'm
little
just
heads up, or
I could call it courage, but it was probably just stupidity and naivete. I went back. I mean, the space between the two towers collapsing was like you said. I was in this horrible place, but I saw humanity at its best. I saw people kind of ransacking, drugstores and pharmacies and coming out with medical supplies and water
mm,
and giving them out to people. Um, but also, I heard a woman cry, and I go to her, and her femur was sticking out of her leg,
yeah,
and I pick her up and put her in a shopping cart, and me and another man pushed her. I saw an ambulance run into a pedestrian just because they didn't see him, and they're rushing to the scene. It was just as I describe in the book. It was beautiful, and it was disturbing all in one scene. And but I don't remember making that decision. But yeah, I was back. I was back at almost the same exact intersection, standing there wondering. Honestly, I was looking for my coworkers. I had been separated at that point, and when I heard that same noise, that same metal on metal noise, and I was like, oh no, I know what that is. No need to stick around. And as I ran, I started running in a different direction this time, and after about 5 seconds, I heard it again. The pancaking of those floors was like a concussion, each one of them, and
mm,
the freight train of that debris storm. And I was able to duck into the lobby of a bank just before that cloud took me over. So I fared better in the second collapse. And in that, I tell this in the story, man. This is one of my favorite parts. In the lobby, a minute later, daggers in two of my guys, two guys I worked with, two other agents, and I was like, now I'm ready to roll, right?
nice.
And we then formed a little informal rescue team of other citizens in there, and we went back to the site. And I don't know what kept drawing me back. I just knew that this is kind of what I'm built for, and I just could. I don't know. I don't remember ever considering going the other way, heading
Yeah.
north instead of south, back to the trade center. And that's where we found the fire equipment, the fire truck, started putting out fires, and it goes on and on. And it was just a really long, hard day.
Yeah, man. And then you mentioned, as the worst day of your life, and then coming back on the 14th, I think you said maybe it was a highlight. What was? What was that like?
That was like nothing I've ever experienced as well. I mean, I was a very junior agent. As I said, I was only an agent for a little over a year. So my role there was minimal. I wasn't part of the logistics, the planning, or I was just a guy. And but just witnessing it and being a part of it, I mean, it was an impossible mission. It was impossible because how do you secure an environment for the president of the United States when you have when that environment is an active recovery zone?
Mhm.
They're actively looking for survivors. And the answer is it's impossible.
Mm.
So we did the best we could. The plan, didn't go as planned. That's always the case. It's the old Mike Tyson quote: "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." Right.
Yeah.
So we adapted and overcame, and then just as it all shifted, me being a very junior agent, I ended up being very close to the president, which is not normal.
Mm.
And I was, I don't know, 10, 15 feet from him when he made that famous bullhorn speech, um, I hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down are going to hear all of us soon, right? And the place just went nuts. It was, and they're chanting USA, USA, and there was a patriotic feeling, but there was also bloodlust in the air,
Mhm.
and it was powerful. And these firefighters, these steam fitters, these welders, and I mean, they were looking their president in the eye, eyeball to eyeball, and saying, "Get them, make them pay,
Yeah.
bring them to justice." Like it was wild, and I say in the book, um, I don't get political, but I saw President move, and I saw President really connecting with his people, um, the people that he was charged to lead, and I know it was a powerful moment for him.
Yeah. Very cool. Um, what did when you said it didn't go to plan, was there ever an issue? I don't remember the president
No, there was
being
no issue. It's just, you got a nice clean plan, a nice setup, and then and then
it
reality happens, the president shows up, but guess who else showed up? The mayor and the governor and every other very important person in the whole state of New York, I think. And everyone was a big deal and pushing and shoving, trying to get jockey for position, right? And
oh boy.
it was a rough crowd, but it was a friendly crowd. So it was just, yeah, there were no incidents or anything. It was just complicated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Well, you meant is that the is there more in the book that you wanted to share or talk about?
Yeah, and this is what leads me to my second half, my
Yeah.
second career. I'll tell you the story really quickly behind the title of the book. The book is titled "Bury Me in a Dirty Suit," and what happened on the 11th was eventually me and the three other agents I was with, we found out where all the other agents had rendezvoused, and we were kind of at that point in the way, and all the real firefighters were there doing their job, and so we went and we met up at the rendezvous point. And so we walk into this room, this huge place on the West Side Highway, and there's a lot of people that looked like us. We were just beaten and bloodied and scarred, and I mean my pants were several inches shorter because they kept catching fire. My shoes had melted throughout the day because of all the fire.
Wow.
uh Clothes in tatters, and we were all wearing suits that day. That's the ironic part, because we had this big meeting that was going to happen in the afternoon, so we're all wearing these suits. Well, all of our suits are destroyed. Now, on the other side of the room was another group of people, and they looked different because they had clean suits.
Mm.
And that's why I say courage is a choice, and I don't say that to degrade anyone, or I use it as an illustration only, not as a bludgeon to hit somebody over the head with,
Yeah.
but it was stark, is what I'm saying. It was a stark difference. And so the next day, on September 12th, I'm sitting on my sofa in Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm praying to God. I'm talking with my wife. I'm trying to figure out, what are we going to do with the rest of our life, and what does all of this mean? And I couldn't get that image out of my head. Not the faces, but the image of the clean suit, dirty suit. And I've sat there and prayed. I prayed with my wife, and I said, Lord, I want to spend the rest of my days getting my suit dirty. I don't know what that looks like. I humbly submit myself to you, because I should not be here. You had me in that moment. You should have taken me twice yesterday, but you didn't. And I'm not going to ask why, because I don't feel like I'm entitled to it. But I am asking for my mission.
Mm.
I am asking for you must have me here for something left to do. So what is it? And then I remember ending that prayer with, Lord, when you take me out of this world and into the next, bury me in a dirty suit. And it just stuck with me. And 24 years later, it becomes the title of my book. And so now I use that illustration to encourage people, especially men, but encourage everyone to find what it is, what grieves your soul, what moves you,
Yeah.
and let that thing move you to action. And get your, metaphorically, get your suit dirty the rest of your days. And so that's really become the heartbeat of my second life, my second career.
So what was I think it's an interesting point on your, so you know, you had the almost unbelievable experience, of course, and then you said that prayer, but then it's 24 years. Was it 24 years of desert? Was it 24 years of, the picture started getting clearer and clearer and clearer? What was that experience like?
That's a great question, Adam. 5 years of desert.
Hmm.
So I prayed that prayer on repeat for 5 years and really heard nothing in response. And I became frustrated. I was agitated. I probably wasn't the best person to be around, hard to live with. And I was just a frustrated young man of faith. And um, and then God told me in prayer, He said, just let me use you. Don't stop trying to figure all this out. Just do the next thing in front of you. Just knock down the next thing that I ask you to do, and I'm going to take you on a journey. And I was like, oh wow, okay, let's do that. And so that's what I started doing. And then He really started putting on my heart at that. This is about 2006, 2007. Putting on my heart, you know what, men, I feel like I connect with men. I can talk to men. I communicate with them well. Um, what is this all about? And then Adam, he started giving me sons. My wife and I started having children, and I had
Yeah,
one son, and then two sons, and then three sons, and then four sons. And I
there's a
was like, my
mission.
goodness, yeah, I was like, okay, I get it, I get it. And so it was clear to my wife and I, you know what, we're gonna raise these boys. We're gonna raise these boys in faith to pursue their own purpose one day, and that became part of my mission. And um, and so then around the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, a mentor of mine encouraged me to start sharing my story, and I was like, no, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. Like 10 people in the world know my story. Um, but he kept encouraging me, and sure enough, I started to do that. And when I started to share my story, not to tell people a war story, but to point people to something bigger that matters, real healing started going on in my life, and I really started feeling I was really turning something from ashes, from beauty from ashes. Right,
Mm,
I got to experience that, and so I just did that on a part-time basis for 10, 12 years, the last 10, 12 years of my life. Still content in the Secret Service, still working hard in the Secret Service, still having a successful career, still very mission oriented. I believe in the mission to this day. But I knew where I was going, and I knew when it was time for that mission to be over. I didn't have like big decision points and a big struggle wrestle session with myself or with anyone else. I knew that He, in the last 12 years or so, He's been training me to launch into this next space. I have been writing this book in my head for 10 or 15 years,
yeah.
and now it's just come to fruition.
Uh, Very cool. So it's interesting to think about when a man wants to uncover his purpose. Like, it probably, as Americans, we expect it to, you know, come on, like I should I should have it tomorrow. And how God took you through this process of years
Hmm.
and decades, to refine. You were still on mission. That's what's important. But in terms
Sure.
of what's next, all right. So tell us a little bit about. So what is next? What exactly you have the book. What else are you doing?
So the book is helping me launch my organization, my ministry slash business. It's called Fierce Faith. You can find it at fierce-faith.com. Also darinkinder.com. And what it is right now, I have ideas for expansion and a greater impact. What it is right now is it's a public speaking business. I'm seeking speaking opportunities in the corporate section and in the faith based world as well.
Cool.
And I want to, and the objective there is to point people in the corporate space to finding real mission and meaning in their work, and finding real mission and meaning in their personal lives. It is not an either or. I think it's an and both. And then on the faith based side, even more so with obviously some Christian and biblical applications. But really, it's about and I get great response. I've got great response so far from the book from men and women. I get great response when I speak from men and women. It's funny how everything I target everything to men, and the women seem to love it as well. So that's very encouraging. But I'm really calling men specifically that, hey, um, your calling, your purpose, especially in your back half, if you're not dead, you're not done, right? If you're not
Hmm.
dead, you're not done. Let's keep going. And men, as you know, default when they think mission or purpose, they immediately default to occupation, to job,
Yeah. Right.
career, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But boy, I think you're missing out on at least half the game there, because I know some people that their mission, their purpose, their meaning comes from their work, and that's really healthy and good for them. I know some people that have a successful career, and that enables them to fuel and fund and be a resource for their actual mission, which is outside of their career. Both are good. It can be an and both.
Yeah, I agree. It can be in both. I think it's great if you can combine the two, but they don't have to
Mhm.
def definitively go together. What
For sure.
well, I had two thoughts. Now I'm trying to grab them. Oh, what? How do you think? So this idea, if you, I don't know exactly what you said, but if you're not dead, you're not done, or something along those lines.
Mhm.
Um, how do you think masculinity plays into that idea?
That's a great question. Uh, you never I just don't think you ever graduate. You never graduate from some of the core responsibilities and roles that are bestowed upon you when you're thinking of masculinity, right? I mean, if you're talking the big truck and the cool boat, I mean, okay, I mean, I guess that's fun. There's nothing wrong with it,
Yeah.
but if that's your definition, if that's the source of your meaning, well, brother, I mean, you're up for nothing but discontent and 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 emptiness, in my opinion. I think, I till the day I die, I'm supposed to be a provider and protector, a cultivator in my family, whether I'm their father or whether I'm the grandfather or whatever. I'm supposed to build relationships and construct and build and invest in the people that have been placed in my care, like my wife and my children, and maybe, Lord willing, my grandchildren. I am called until I punch out of this world to be a protector of the weak, to use whatever strength, skills, and ability I have. Like, yeah, I think of my Secret Service career and my training. I have a certain set of skills and stuff that came from a lot of reps and a lot of work. I'm to use those in a disciplined and good way, to protect the weak and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I was recently just at an orphanage in Guatemala a few weeks ago, and these I was with these young girls who were abused, were trafficked, and then had children, and nobody wanted the children, right?
Mm, yeah.
I mean, where was the person? Where was the man that's supposed to design and created to protect these girls and to protect these children? Just moves my soul. So
Mm,
that's the kind of stuff that fires me up in a good way. There's a quote that I'm very fond of that uh, uh, anger breeds bitterness, but righteous anger breeds action.
mm,
And I want, if you see something that if you see it, it's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for me, for all of us. But whatever it is, and this is one of I encourage men to get into the arena, whatever arena they choose, whatever societal problem or issue, whatever moves your soul, whatever just kind of grieves you and makes you stop in your tracks and say that's not right.
yeah.
I want to encourage people and equip people to get in that arena and get their suit dirty and be buried in the dirty suit when it's all said and done.
Yeah. Well said for the masculinity is a tough question, and I think a lot of times you nailed it. Is society thinks it's the boat and the big truck. Where I think what it is, and it's what you just said, is it's a man of action. That's masculinity. The doing the role of providing and protecting, and like, yeah, if you're still breathing, do that,
Right.
because that's what it means to be a man. And we have so many
And
men
and
sitting
I
on the sidelines. You know,
and I would
uh,
say disciplined action, principled action.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah, well, very cool. Well, I love the work you're doing. Obviously, Made to Matter is a cousin. of your organization. And Darren, where's the best place for our audience to grab the book?
Yeah, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, anywhere you buy books online, yeah, you can grab it there. You can find, I have two different websites, fierce-faith.com and DarinKinder.com, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, at Darin Kinder. I spell Darren correctly with one R and an I. I'm the only one in the world apparently, so that's
Okay.
good.
All right.
But you can find all my resources there, and that's the best way.
Yeah, and the title of the book again is "Bury Me in a Dirty Suit." So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and then speaking. I imagine if people are interested in your services as a speaker, they can find that on your website as well.
Yeah, faith-based stuff is on fierce-faith.com, and my corporate side of the house is DarinKinder.com.
All right. Well, Darren, thanks again. Amazing story, amazing testimony, and love the work you're doing. And of course, the work you're doing here in the second half. I commend you for doing that. And thank you for your service, not only at 9/11, but as a Secret Service agent as well. Very much
Yeah,
appreciative.
yeah,
All right. Well, this is
I
another
appreciate
episode
it,
of
man.
Made.
Love the work you're doing.
Well, oh, thank
So.
you. Appreciate that. All right. This is another episode of Made to Matter. And we'll hope to see you next week. Take care.